This morning's guest travels 20,000 miles a month, speaks to thousands weekly. She's Miss America. But that's not what makes her special. Meet Kirsten Haglund, coming up next on Carolina. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're in the lobby of the Spartanburg Memorial Auditorium. We're focused on the Miss America organization. And we're visiting with Miss America, Kirsten Haglund. Good morning, Kirsten.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
How exciting getting you back to Spartanburg.
Yes, thank you. I loved it so much I had to come back.
Absolutely. And of course, with you traveling on average, 20,000 miles a month?
Yes,
traveling back
average.
to Spartanburg wasn't a bad deal. Yeah.
No, but everyone here has been so warm and welcoming, so I want to say thank you very much.
The whole Palmetto State and all the folks that were here a couple of weeks ago for the pageant, to see the crowning of both the teen and the miss was tremendous.
It's so exciting. It's such an exciting time for those girls, and someone has an incredible journey ahead of them for the year, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it was particularly exciting being one of the judges and sitting up at the front and being able to look back when they announced that Kirsten Haglund, Miss America, was there, and to see the entire auditorium stand up, and it looked like people were teary-eyed.
Oh my gosh, it's still very surreal to me to be able to walk out on stage and hear the Miss America theme song. I mean, I remember being a little girl and sitting up and standing and clapping for Miss America when she would walk out, and just, it's very surreal, but I feel so lucky. I really do.
Oh yeah. Well, it is exciting to see those parents in the same way taking my daughter down to Disney World and being there for a Princess Tea and seeing
Disney
Aurora
Princess.
come out, and I'd get teary-eyed. It's very emotional when you see the child looking up in any setting. It's a magnificent thing.
It is.
There were 4 other judges here, and of course I had some packed great questions for you, but they said put your questions aside. Why don't you ask some, not the ones we actually asked any of the pageant contestants here in South Carolina, but just some great questions for you. And so if you don't mind, I was just going to check with you about a couple of those.
No, fire away.
This first one that we all came up with was a great one. What do you miss most about life before Miss America?
Before Miss America.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. People usually ask that, but they don't realize, well, before Miss America, I was Miss Michigan, so that was also the position of being a title holder. Before that, you were your local, which was Miss Oakland County. So I'd probably have to go back from before I was my local. But one thing that I miss the most is I fly all over the country, and we're driven everywhere, and I'm not actually allowed to drive my own car. And this may sound small, but the times that I've been able to be home and drive my own car, get behind the wheel, put my own seatbelt on, decide where I want to go, be able to roll down the window and listen to the radio and turn up the music that I love and wear just a baseball cap and be totally anonymous. That is such a valuable feeling. And feeling independent enough to be able to drive your own gas and pump or drive your own car and pump your own gas, however expensive it may be. You know, there's just an element of freedom and independence in that I don't get to experience this year as Miss America. So that's kind of one small little thing that I miss, but it's such a wonderful year that it's a very small price to pay.
That is. But it is that must be very strange, though, being chauffeured everywhere, being driven everywhere, and of course, not driving, is that, some people may think, what is it, you don't want to break a nail, or why it's just...
well, part of it is an insurance and liability issue.
Right, of course,
And for other times, I mean, we're traveling constantly, so me and my traveling companion, we're not allowed to, I mean, it's not logical for us to have our own vehicle or mode of transportation. And we go green, so we travel commercial, of course.
I love it. Impressive.
Exactly, but I don't think I could have picked a better year to not have to drive with gas prices being the way they are.
No, very definitely.
But just being a normal, college kid from Farmington Hills, Michigan, it's different to go from a life of being independent and being a college kid and to go to being somewhat of a celebrity, I suppose. It's just, it was a life adjustment, but I'll be happy. I'm happy right now, and I'll be happy to go back.
Absolutely, and the great thing is you do get your hands dirty. You do get, whether you're Miss America or not, you're as down to earth, clearly, as anyone who's aspiring for the crown.
Well, thank you.
Which is a great thing. Question number 2 from the judges of the Miss South Carolina pageant. Was there any time during the week of Miss America that you thought, I might win this thing. I might win this thing. Was there any time during that?
Oh, my goodness. Well, the thing is you never know. Because the judges, they always say a different panel of judges, a different night, a different girl. And so because there is so much subjectivity, you can just, I could go into the whole thing looking at it like sales and marketing. You make yourself, you know the product, you try to get to know yourself and make yourself the very best that you can be. You package yourself so that you're marketable. And you go into that interview, you go into the competition just marketing yourself the very best that you can. And, but the judges, you may be Pepsi and another girl may be Coke. Both the integrity and the quality of the products is the same, but some judges prefer Coke over Pepsi. So just because you're a great Pepsi, they prefer Coke. So I went into looking at it that way and just tried to prepare myself the very best. However, I had this great devotional book that I carried with me to Miss America, and every Bible verse the morning that I woke up and I would read this devotional was about winning or running the race in order to
win the prize.
Yes, to win the prize. Good. And it was references to crown and being God's princess and what does that mean and being a child of God. And it was speaking to me, and I was like, well, I'm not going to I'm just going to say, okay, it's your timing and whatever God's will is for my life will be. And then Saturday morning I woke up and I just had a sense of peace and a sense of calm and acceptance about whatever was going to happen. And I was very quiet that day, and I didn't want to read into anything, but I was very calm, and I felt maybe that morning that something was going to change in my life.
Divine intervention,
so
yes.
It was very interesting. The most calm that I've ever felt actually in my entire life.
Really?
So yes, and I'm a very type A, perfectionistic type person, so that's really saying something. But, I just let it go. You have to let it go.
I wonder how many of the other 49, is it a total of 50 women?
It's actually 52. We have this District of Columbia and Virgin Islands.
So I wonder how many of the other 51 women were feeling the same way, that they had a calm over on, because as you say, there's no way to know. It could be that 30 of them had that calm they'd never experienced before and thought maybe this is their night.
Right, and so many girls, every girl goes to a competition with a different feeling, and some are feeling that, well, I really need to win this to feel validated, and some others go into it feeling, well, I could win, but I know what I want to do afterward, and I know that this experience is just changing me and helping me to learn things that will help me afterwards. So for some, it really is only about the crown, but for many, it's about the journey and the experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Speaking of journey, here's another great one. As Miss America, you've had the opportunity to travel to many places across our nation.
Yes.
While we live in a very diverse society, what's one common thread you have found everywhere you've been? Is there one?
Oh my goodness, that is the thing that I say on the road, is that I've learned that people are people, no matter what age, no matter what region of the country, no matter what socioeconomic status, level of education, career choice. You connect with people on the same level of communication. A smile and a handshake goes so far, and genuine interest. I mean, I've found that communication skills, having the ability to converse with people, to be genuinely interested in other people, and to be able to carry on a conversation, that connects people like you would not even believe. And so I've really found that people, you are so true. We do live in a diverse country, but people are inherently the same, and they're motivated by the same things. And when people show concern and care, it really connects people. And that's why I love my job. I love to learn about people, and I love to connect with people. And it's incredible just how much a smile and happiness and positivity can go in embracing people.
I love it, Kirsten. Well, it was so fascinating. Earlier this week, one of the other judges, actually Dr. Adrian Johnson, came back from Texas to be back here in the lobby of the auditorium. And it's fascinating hearing him talk about, essentially, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason we should be listening twice as much as we speak. And in that same way, as you say, the opportunity to connect with folks because they make that extra effort to listen to you. What is Miss America all about? Surely to get into it.
Absolutely. And so many people are looking for others to care. Because we go around in this society, it's all about succeeding. It's all about achievement and what can I do and how can I push myself more. And you don't come across a lot of people that are willing to step outside of themselves and say, I care about you. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you're doing, and smiling and being interested in what they have to say. And when people can find that other people are interested, that gives them a sense of self-worth. So much of my job, I feel like, is a service and making sure that other people know that there is someone who cares, that that is what our American society and our culture values. Miss America is something patriotic and about American pride. And what is that? And that's the fact that I care about you, and I'm going to step outside of myself for a second, and I'm going to care about you and listen to you. I think, and I love to do it.
That's tremendous. And I care about our director's daughter, Delaney, and she asked a question about your crown. What is it made of?
It's so funny. So many people go, is your crown real?
Yeah.
I say, well, yes, it's real. It's not a figment of your imagination. You can touch it. But it's Austrian crystal.
Oh, it's it's gorgeous.
So thank you very much.
And of course, we see almost signs of it in the beautiful Miss America logo right behind you. Even though there's not a crown, these stars on the eye in Miss and on the eye in America help drive home the stars there on the crown. It's beautiful, yes.
Well, thank you very much. And we say that the 4 points of the crown, because this is the same crown they've used, the same design of crown that they've used since the 50s. So there's such tradition in it. But we say that the 4 points of the crown stand for 4 things. And there's style, success, scholarship, which obviously this is a scholarship program. We compete for scholarship, and service. So it's not just a sparkly thing on the top of my head.
I'm going to have to write that back down again. Of course, for viewers who may not be familiar with the 4 points of the crown: style, success, yes. Scholarship, very important. And service. And that really came out 2 weeks ago while we were here just on the state level pageant. Of course, I'm sure through the entire, from the beginning, you mentioned your very local franchise of the local organization there in Michigan, to then becoming Miss Michigan and then later becoming Miss America. At every step of the way, you see style, success, scholarship, and service.
Yes, that's what our job is all about, and that's what we want people to know, is that it's not just the night of the pageant, because yes, it is the night of the pageant, but now Miss South Carolina is going to be traveling all over the state, serving her community, speaking about issues of importance, visiting children in the hospital for Children's Miracle Network, that's our national partnership, and preparing to go to Miss America. But in every way, she's serving her community, and now that's her job. So the pageant is just one night of it, but the job is about those 4 other things.
Traveling for the next year, traveling all over. Speaking of traveling, you have a very intense schedule. What keeps you motivated to meet the public on those very tough days when you're maybe worn out after a long flight, or obviously flying back here just to get on air and to see some of the great Spartan burgers in the area?
Well, I realize how very lucky I am to be in this position. And not only to be in this position that so many girls compete for, but to be a young woman, 19 years old, who is able to address a national audience, who is able to be passionate about something and be able to talk about it in the media. Not very many young people have that opportunity or have that capability. They're writing about things in their college classroom that I'm able to experience. So I feel lucky, but I also feel blessed as a person. 2 kind of things that come to my mind and help me to stay motivated is, one, I was visiting a veterans hospital in Long Beach, California, and you can get down some days, and tired from the schedule, but I asked a gentleman, a Vietnam War veteran, I said, "How are you doing today, sir? Like, are you having a good day?" Because, days for them can be up and down. And I said, "How's your day going today?" He said, "Well, I'm too blessed to be stressed." And this from a Vietnam War veteran who was laying in a bed in the hospital. And he said, there's someone who has something to be, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, sure.
Said, "I'm too blessed to be stressed." The fact that he had a family, the fact that he had his life, that was just profound to me. I said, wow. Why do I ever complain about anything? And then similarly, I was stuck in the airport, actually, a couple weeks ago. I was stuck in the Chicago airport for several hours, and I was kind of bummed, and I was going to be getting in late. And I was talking to a phone and a friend, and past me, and I don't know this gentleman's story, but a young man, just maybe a couple years older than me, was going by in a wheelchair. He didn't have legs from the hip, and he had no hands, and he was wheeling himself by in a wheelchair. And I couldn't believe, and as I was sitting there on the phone with my mom, and this gentleman went by, I just thought, why in the world am I complaining about anything? I have no right. I have my health. I have a wonderful family. I have an incredible job. I'm able to do something I'm passionate about every single day. What in the world do I have to be stressed about? Nothing. I am too blessed to be stressed.
I love
it. Those are some things that really motivate me.
Your new platform potential. To really spread the word about being, for folks who really take things for granted, they need to highlight being. And we need to talk a little bit about your platform, both your platform as Miss Michigan and later as Miss America, and then also Miss America, the organization's tremendous platform and their position throughout. But that's great. Too blessed to be stressed. I love it. I love it. We got a couple more questions from the judges. And, of course, what message would you like to share to other young women? And it may be that, just basically that, but to other young women to encourage them to participate in the Miss America system.
Well, first of all, it's not, pageants aren't for everyone. But if you're someone who loves to be involved in your community, if you're someone who has you want to share your talent on stage, that's a great way. If you are someone who's pursuing scholarship and heading off to school, this is the world's, not just in the United States, the world's #1 provider of scholarship. for women.
In the world?
Yes, in the world. $45 million we gave away last year in scholarship.
Wow.
So if you're looking for a way to receive a scholarship for school, and you don't have to win the crown to receive a scholarship. You can win a talent award, you can win a community service award, you can just place, going to Miss America, each girl just for going to Miss America got $3,000 in scholarship.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So you don't have to win. It's just a great way to get a scholarship for your education and to say that, you'll always be able to say, yep, I competed in a pageant when I was a young girl. Take it for whatever you want. But it's a way to really build your confidence and self-esteem. So I say go for it.
That's great. That's great. We got less than 10 minutes, so I want to make sure we get to some of those other questions, even though these are great. But how does Miss America spend her days off? Obviously, we know you can't drive.
Right.
So you've got to sit back a little bit.
Well, it just depends on where I am, but usually I like to take that time to exercise.
Right.
I make exercise, some form of exercise, a part of my daily routine.
Sure.
But I really like to take the time to go to a gym and do cardio as well as Pilates, which I really love to do.
You love Pilates.
I do. I adore Pilates. It's a great workout. But and it depends on how tired I'm feeling. Maybe just relax in the hotel, or maybe go out and shop or see some historic sites in a city, and catch up on phone calls, write thank you notes. That's usually what I spend my days doing, catching up.
Does your family follow you at all? I mean, do they get to travel and rendezvous with you anywhere? How do you get back to Michigan? Is this a year kind of like being overseas, essentially?
It kind of is like a deployment service, But whenever I'm in Michigan doing events, my parents usually drive to see me. So about once a month, I'm able to see my family. That's
great. That's great. Lastly, from the judges, you're never in one place for any length of time. How do you know? Since you're not? How do you know you're making a difference in any of those communities?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel very fortunate. I receive so many letters. I receive thank you letters from organizations that I work with, but also from young women. And that's something that really makes me very happy when I do events for my platform. I receive letters from young women in treatment centers for eating disorders across the country. Children's Miracle Network, I receive letters from this Children's Miracle Network and their families. I'm able to visit children in hospitals across the country, and then afterward I'll receive letters from that hospital. I'll receive photos. We work with Children's Miracle Network pretty frequently, so Children's Miracle Network continues to send me from events. They send me collages of photos from our event, and the feedback, the response that they've gotten from people. I just continue to receive correspondence from people that I've worked with all over the country.
That's great.
And something else that's really neat too is eating disorders aren't talked a whole lot about in the media. They're talked about maybe just like on the cover of a glamorous magazine, like, oh, look at this star, has an eating disorder, but you don't hear much about what's actually causing this. What can we do to prevent this? The stories of recovery and of hope. And because I've been able to talk about my experience a lot in the media, especially right after Miss America, there's a media blitz. I just saw recently an article in Time magazine about the pressures that the media puts on young women to be thin. What does it mean to be successful, and how appearance relates to that? And I thought, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, the fact that I've been talking about this, the fact that people who work in the media and in the press are going to, it sticks in their brain, it plants a seed, so it makes them more willing to pick up on that kind of story. It's written by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. And I thought, wow, how neat that I am helping to make this a prevalent issue, that there will be an article in Time magazine about eating disorders and the effect they have on young women. I thought, wow, that is awesome, and that shows that the work that I'm doing is hopefully planting a seed in people's heads and making them, recognize the issue and report on it, and that makes me feel so good.
You've got to be feeling great.
Thank
Absolutely.
You. Yes, absolutely.
That is tremendous. Well, of course, so many aspects of anorexia nervosa that a lot of folks don't know about, but any numbers of eating disorders, whether it's bulimia, whether it's overeating for children, childhood obesity, that's probably a big deal.
It is huge. People just think that an eating disorder is a desire to be thin, but that is not the case. It is the manifestation of emotional issues and of emotional turbulence in food and on your diet and on your weight. And you can't say that countless people in this country do not struggle with an unhealthy relationship with food and with their body. And it's not only anorexia, it's bulimia as well, it's overeating, it's night eating syndrome, which is something people don't talk a lot about, it's food addiction, it's obesity. It's taking out our problems and any struggles or stresses that you have in your life on food. And so many people struggle with that. And what it is it's about body acceptance. It's about accepting that all different body shapes and sizes are beautiful. It's about moderation and about a desire to be a healthy individual, both outside and inside. And that's something that all of us can learn from and all of us struggle with. But we need to be very careful about how we address weight and food issues with our young people especially.
There are really issues there of trying to make sure sure folks understand that Miss America is more about inner beauty than outer beauty. Just that same comment about your nails. I mean, so many folks think it's about nails and hair and external beauty, and not at all associated that it's a beauty pageant. And of course, kicking off in the 20s, it may have been about swimsuits or otherwise, but clearly, as organizations change, people change.
And absolutely, and that's the great thing about this program. It has evolved with the times. It's gone through World War II. It's gone through the 50s. It's gone through the cultural movement of the 60s and feminism. And in 1988, the first platform was introduced, Miss America going and speaking about an issue. So the image of Miss America continues to change. One thing that I find really inspiring is being able to work on my platform, obviously, and encourage this idea that, yes, we as women, it would be silly to say that we don't love to feel beautiful, that we don't like to, that some women don't like to get dressed up and feel beautiful. You know, that is a part of, you know, that's the style portion of the crown. But more importantly is about the fact that we are able to be stylish and we are able to have a brain and speak intelligently about an issue and to be a strong, upstanding woman. And who doesn't want to say that I am a complete woman, I embrace my femininity in all aspects, and the fact that I feel that I can walk into a room and feel confident in the way that I look and also the way that I speak and also what's in between my ears. I think that that is incredible, and that is something to be proud of. And you know, again, it's not for everyone, but for the women who compete in this program, they'll tell you that there's nothing more empowering.
Right. That is powerful. We could almost end the interview there, but we got a few minutes. Kirsten, I got to say, on behalf of so many folks, they clearly need knowing those steps to get there.
Yes.
For you, was it something that instilled by a parent? Was it instilled by a great mentor at an early age, by a teacher who stepped up, by seeing an empowered woman who's
yeah, I had incredible role models all my life of women, not only teachers, but women who competed in this program who I looked up to when I was little. Also, actually, an exceptional role model for me in my idea of what it means to be a woman, a strong woman, is you know, people always say this, but my mom, she had breast cancer. It's 6 years that she has been in remission from her cancer, and she's cancer-free. But talk about an assault on a woman's femininity, something like breast cancer, which is a horrible illness that affects millions of women. But she was able to turn that around. Now she is working as a nurse in our church. Since having, I mean, she's always been a nurse, but now she's devoted her time and her service and her energy in our church. And there have been, since her cancer, there have been about 10 or 12 women in our church that have been diagnosed with breast cancer. So seeing her use her struggle that was extremely personal and extremely life-altering to now help other people. She's been able to be not only a mentor of faith, but as someone to help these women who are going through this turbulent time in their lives. She's turned that assault around and been able to help other people. And seeing that, well, I struggled with something, but I don't have to just say that, well, yes, I struggle with that and move on and continue in me mode. I can turn that around and say, each of us is given struggles in our lives. What do we do with that? We use it to help other people who are going through the same thing. So she's been an incredible role model for me, not only in faith, but in character, and showing that you can go through something like that and still feel beautiful as a woman and still offer your service to others.
I love it. I love to hear you talk about your mother, and I love my mother. Of course, as the father of a girl, my poor dad had 3 sons. He doesn't have that experience, but as the father of a girl, would you ever call yourself a daddy's girl?
Yes. Oh, I'm a total daddy's girl. I absolutely adore my daddy, and he's wonderful. So.
Wow, that's very nice. And on behalf of all guys around the country, of course, the idea of Miss America, are you able to, I mean, just the idea of getting out, being on your own, as you said, deployed essentially for a year, are you able to get out and like hang out with guys, or is it mostly with girls during your year off?
Well, mostly it's my traveling companion.
Of course, that's right. You met one of them here.
Who is so much fun. But you are allowed to date if someone comes along, if they ask you on a date. And of course, you have to be responsible. You have to be a responsible adult.
That's right.
But Miss America is allowed to have a personal life, and I will say, well, keep my private life private. But you are allowed, as long as you know things don't interfere with your job, to see a gentleman. Yes.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. You know, as you think for you, the most important position to get across to anyone, whether you're meeting a young woman and encouraging her to get into the pageant, or if it's meeting a Vietnam veteran who's too blessed to be stressed, the most important position you want to get across to anyone that you get out to meet, is it just the idea of making sure to drive home that point? Is it the idea about the platform?
It's about the fact that I really, really encourage this feeling of self-worth. And what does it mean to serve others? And what does it mean to get outside of yourself? And that's something that you can talk about, but you need to be an example. because so much more is learned without words. So much more is learned by just observing the way someone behaves, observing the way that someone interacts with other people. And so I try to know that inherently in myself first, and that feeling of self-worth and of self-acceptance came through my recovery from my eating disorder. And that's what I just try to be, and my faith helps me immensely too.
Yes.
As I just pray that I will say the words that need to be said, I will touch the people's lives who are most willing to receive that, and that I will be able to be used and be a servant my entire year. And I think that people pick up so much more on those things that aren't said. And so I just try to be the very best role model for young women that I can be in feeling comfortable as a woman and putting service first in my life.
Paul's very clear in Romans talking about running the race so as to win the prize.
Absolutely.
And it's great to hear a beautiful young woman talking about God and Christ's role in their life. The difference He's made in your life has been...
Absolutely. Well, it's been, because this happened to me so unexpectedly, it's taught me to trust in a way that I never thought I could. And so I just have to say that it was God. It was nothing that I did. It was completely. So that's why you just have to let it go and let God.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning,
Yes,
Kirsten.
of course. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. A little more Carolina people with Miss America, Kirsten Haglund, coming up next. Isn't it great hearing Kirsten talk about the 4 points of the crown? So special: style, success, scholarship, and service. I think more important, if you've sat here the last 30 minutes, you see she's got a 5th point in the crown. It's a woman who steps out and talks about her faith in Christ and the center role that star, that point in the crown, right there in the center of the crown. Think about it, a beautiful young woman who could talk about anything, could talk about her platform, could talk about young women in America, instead brings everything back to God, the centerpiece right there in the crown. Take the time to learn more about Miss America, missamerica.org, and about Kirsten Haglund and all the amazing things she's doing. Thanks so much for being with us this morning,
Welcome.
Kirsten.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.